Hey guys, got a message from Paul Thorpe that he wanted to talk to me. Just shoot the shit, get on camera. We don't know what this video will bring. However, I'm sure you guys will enjoy it, so stay tuned. Hey Paul, how are you?
Hey Roman, how you doing?
Doing well.
So how's have you noticed any downturn in business? I mean, what's going on out there?
I'll tell you what's going on. We got, it's the uncertainty, right? It's the uncertainty that kind of put things on pause. It reminds me very, very well of '08, when shit hit the fan in '08. Basically, everybody just kind of went quiet. The prices didn't change, meaning the prices are sort of staying stable for the most part, for now. But I'm seeing certain individuals panicking, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that. By panicking, I'm talking about the guys that have got into this business about probably 5 to 6, 7 years ago, right? And these guys started buying up what? All the hype stuff. Paddock Nautiluses, Aquanauts, all the Royal Oaks, all the Richard Meals. And all of a sudden, they felt like a big badass, right? Yeah. You got about a bunch of young guys on 47th Street, and when I say young, I mean by relatively young in the business, around 5 years, that felt like they were the man or the woman, simply because of where the market took them, right? You saw what happened in the last 5 years with the market and all the hype stuff. It went through the roof, and all of a sudden, everybody became an expert. And all of a sudden they felt as if, oh, I'm the man in this business. I'm sitting back and I'm looking at all this stuff and I said, I've been here before. So I anticipated, obviously, the market going up and then going down. Something either bound to happen, either a recession for one reason or the other. Of course, we didn't expect the coronavirus, right? That pretty much shot everybody down. The good news is that we went into it with a good economy, more or less, around the world. Again, more or less, right? But now all these guys are taking a shit, because they're sitting on a bunch of hype RM11s, Royal Oaks, Nautiluses, everything that was hype, that was so overpriced already, that they're basically taking a shit right now, and I'm waiting for these guys to dump all the stuff out on the market. The minute they start dumping, when they got to start paying interest rates on their loans, which some of them took out on the street, and they're going to start panicking because the wheel is going to stop. And it has stopped for many reasons. Right now, Hong Kong, I'm having issues. I had to deliver a $900,000 Richard Mille yesterday, and my driver made it in the nick of time into Armored Services carrier to make it to Hong Kong just in time before it gets locked down, and my customer from Indonesia was able to pick up the watch. Right now, there's no movement in and out of Hong Kong. FedEx is closed in Dubai. I went to Dubai and Oman on a buying trip last week or 2 weeks ago, and I bought a bunch of stuff. Half of it came in, the other half I can't get because FedEx is not picking up in Dubai. And so now they have to try to ship the stuff from Dubai to Hong Kong. And then with an armored carrier, I got to bring this stuff here, hope that the prices don't drop, that I can still make money on this stuff. So it's a fun time in our business right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting world. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, it's the newbies that are gonna go by the wayside. It's a harsh thing to say, but in some respects, the guys that have been in longer term, the ones that are like people like yourself that are me in years gone by, were in it up to our neck for years. It might even do us a little bit of a favour. It might get rid of some of these, the flippers and the triers,
Well, the private sector for sure, which I'm extremely happy about. Because again, in '08, you had the same kind of concept where you have so many privates in the business of going out there, finding watches, buying them and selling it to guys like us because they demanded a premium. Now all those guys are going to disappear completely. And again, some of the newbies are going to learn a hard lesson, and not many of, a few of them will stay around and a few of them will go belly up and look for something else to do. The problem with that is that how our business works. Everybody owes everybody money. It's all based on word. And when you're sitting on a lot of receivables, it becomes an issue as well. When a few guys go under, it messes up the bigger guys. I know I have quite a few guys that owe me a little bit of money on the street. And I know that at the end of the day, one or two of them are going to hurt me financially, in a sense that they're not going to be able to pay their bills. And they're not going to go bad because they want to or maliciously. They're just going to go bad due to the market.
Yeah. That's unfortunate. I mean, I have a funny feeling that you and I have similar sort of morals to myself. I mean, I would rather go out and lick the street and let someone like yourself down who put their trust in me, let me take stock, and it's going to be a bitter pill to swallow for a lot of people. I mean, I'm talking to a guy in London who sells or gives out a lot of stuff on sale or return, and he's getting ready to take a bath, honestly.
I do have some goods out on the street that are memo to a lot of these guys. And when I say on the street, I'm talking about from New York to Hong Kong to Dubai. But for the most part, whatever goods I give out on consignment or whatever goods I take in on consignment myself is usually from people that I know. I try to do business with guys that if tomorrow they have to shut down operations for 30 days, it's not going to affect them to a point where they're going to kill them. Business. There is a light, I feel like, at the end of this tunnel, because even though we're in a time of uncertainty, I look at my sales over the weekend, and these were my online sales. And we still did plenty of retail revenue online because guess what? People are sitting at home and they're shopping online. Amazon just announced they want to hire 100,000 people here in the United States to help them, put orders out. I'm guessing it's mostly toilet paper and Purell, but but whatever it is, you do have some upsides to the online businesses. And again, going into this with a good economy shows me that so long as the actions taken by the government to try to quarantine everybody get to the point where China is today in the same amount of time, we should be good. I'm concerned about Europe. I'm concerned about Europe big time because of how quickly it's spread in places like Italy and Spain. By us, it's called martial law now, but I think in Italy, you can't be on the street past 5 o'clock. Et cetera, et cetera. I'm hoping that those measurements are going to contain this fast enough so that we recover as fast as China. China yesterday closed their first Wuhan hospital. They didn't have enough cases to support the hospital being open. That's great news. And it's been, 2 months, 2.5 months?
Yeah. It's hit us really fast. I mean, it's quite surprising how fast it spread. I mean, I went down to the Canary Islands just last week. And when I came back to London, Roman, this is the sort of thing that was really bugging me, is that I come through customs at Gatwick Airport, and they were more worried about the amount of cigarettes that people were bringing in than the flight that was coming into us next to us from Milan. And I'm thinking, guys, you need to get on top of this. It's not worried about people bringing in cigarettes. You should be worried about the temperature of the people that are coming through. Listen, I think the problem is with a free societies like we live in, it's very hard unless you are told strictly you cannot leave your home. They're telling people to self-isolate, but we're too used to our freedom. In China, if the government says you stay indoors, listen, you stay indoors because you're going to be in big trouble if you don't.
Have you seen the video that's gone viral where the guy was stopped at a checkpoint and they used this big butterfly net to catch him? When they
I haven't seen it. No.
I'm gonna pop it in. I'm gonna have him pop it into this video. And you know what? If that's the measures you have to take, that's the measure you take. Unfortunately, like you said, in free societies, especially the United States and the United Kingdom, you can't have guys out on the street with guns and big butterfly nets catching people. It's gonna raise hell. And in America, more so, population of 330 million with an average of 2.4 guns per person. So if you start that shit around here, there's gonna be some gun-ho individuals that are not gonna fly with. But
that Second Amendment might come back to bite you on the backside.
Exactly. But to get back to the watch market, I'll tell you what I'm doing right now. What I'm doing right now is I'm probably sitting on the lowest amount of inventory in terms of dollars. I am selling a lot of things via dealer chats. One of the things we didn't have in 2008 when this happened is, well, for one, my wholesale business wasn't where it is today, for one. I was just kind of starting out. But the wholesale is going to keep things alive, and mainly due to technology. I have probably about 600 plus messages just from various dealer chat groups that are on
WhatsApp groups.
There's still somebody out there looking for something. There's still people out there looking to take opportunity of the situation and spend money. So you got guys right now in sell-off mode, but yet you also have a lot of guys in the wholesale industry that are in buy mode. And yesterday I bought 2 Pateks. I bought a 5726 stainless steel blue dial for 75,000 US. This is a watch that normally a month ago people would be asking 100 plus. I bought a 5712 stainless steel for 55,000, which again, a watch that normally would be 75,000 just 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
They were both double sealed, and now I have a decision to make. So here are these 2 Pateks that I know that are probably going to go down some more eventually. But what I'm trying to do is try to stay ahead of the curve going down. This is what I did in '08.
Yeah.
And this is how we made a lot of money in '08, because we were quickly flipping stuff where I was buying it just slightly cheaper ahead of where I anticipate the price to go lower.
Yeah.
In the worst case scenario, I say to myself, well, you know what, if they take another $10,000 dump, right? I don't know of one cheaper than 85,000 right now. If they take another dump, I'm going to take it. It's a double sealed watch dated 2020. I'm going to put it in my safe for 6 months.
Yeah. I was just going to say, what's your philosophy on a couple of pieces like that? Are you going to try and move them quick, or are you just going to go, you know what, I'm just going to hold them?
I'll be honest with you, Paul. Last week I bought a watch that retails for $730,000, and in the market that I know of one that sold for 1.1 million. Right, that was the market on it. I bought it, I flipped it, I made a 5% margin roughly, and I was happy about it because I was excited when I bought it. When it came in and I looked at it and I was in a brick, and I'm saying, wait a minute, I just stuck almost $1 million into this watch. But guess what? I managed to sell it. But the issue is not just selling it. The issue is the logistics of it. I'm selling all over the world. And right now my hands are being tied more and more and more with logistics being shut down all over the world. Because these guys that want to buy $1 million watch, they're not going to sit around for a month waiting for it, because the market is changing. And again, this is all B2B stuff. This is not to a retail customer. My retail clients, they understand, they'll wait. I had a retail client recently purchase a heavy duty Bulgari jewelry set for like 400 grand. Well, she knows that she's going to have to probably wait 30 days for it, but she's a retail client. She doesn't care. She's already paid for it. She'll just wait. But dealers, they want the stuff yesterday because of course. Hey, listen, let's face it. Anybody out there that tells you I'm a big badass in this business and I have a lot of money is lying, because we'll never have any money. You've been in the business for a long time, and the biggest issue we have always is cash, because when we have it, it makes no sense to hold it. We got to put it into merchandise. We put it into merchandise. Stock. Somebody offers you something else, and all of a sudden you never have enough money, right? And this is the situation. And by logistics around the world slowing down, that is going to hinder that business as well. But I don't see the market slow down here in the US yet. Right? It's sort of that quiet before the storm. And I'm hoping that the measures that the government took are going to take effect fast enough to where we get a little bit of good news, get over that hump, start going down where it's going to be business as usual.
Because you know, the other thing as well is that when we come out on the other side, please God, we come out on the other side, like you say, quite quickly, there's going to be a feeling of euphoria. And when we get that feeling of euphoria, people are going to be going, hey, you know what? I'm not going to die. I'm going to go and buy that watch that I wanted. I'm going to go and buy that motorcycle. I'm going to go and buy it. I'm going to take that holiday, that vacation. So, you know, I think there are positives down the line. And that's the message that I'm trying to, at the moment at least, trying to put out on the channel, that, you know, we've got to try and stay positive, because you really take nothing out of negatives, do you? There's nothing to be adding negatives. Yeah.
I will give some advice to yours and my viewers right now. For a retail customer right now, this is land of opportunity. And that opportunity is right now. Don't be the one guy to sit there and wait for this market to bottom out, because it can quickly fix itself within 2 weeks or 2 months. Nobody knows that, you know, even though Ian gave me a crystal ball, I still don't know that. What I do know is right now is the time to think about, okay, the market is down in general. For example, in '08, when everything hit the fan, my opportunity, I found it to be in two things. Number one, vintage Rolexes, and number two, the stock market, right? So on a personal level, I took advantage of the stock market. And, you know, when Amazon was trading at $9 a share, you know, that was an opportune time to buy, right? Yes, I didn't put a whole lot of money into that because it was still a scary time. I put a little bit in and it paid off in the long term. Same with the vintage Rolexes, right? Speaking of which, I'm wearing my single red sub. I bought in '08, I bought the single red sub, complete box papers for $8 grand, you know?
Lovely.
Today it's trading 27, 28,000.
Yeah.
Finding one complete, right? I sold off all the other ones. I mean, I sold my A serial last Zenith P serial Daytonas for 50 grand to an Italian guy. I mean, I paid 11,000 for them. So if you are somebody who's a retail client right now, I feel like it's a great time to take advantage of that dream watch. And not from an investment perspective, but from a perspective of really, really getting out there, buying what you want at a slightly lower price, and putting on your wrist and enjoying it, knowing that, you know what, you bought it cheaper than it's going to be ever. And I always say these things are not an investment. So as a retail client, get out there and look for that one thing that you always wanted. Listen, 15202 stainless steel trading upwards of about 50 grand now. That we're trading in a high market. Well, if that's the watch that you wanted, and now you can pick that up watch for 40 or even 35,000 pre-owned, go out there and get it.
Go and do it,
But not from an investment perspective, again, but from a perspective that you're now buying in the lower market rather than the higher market.
Do you
That's why.
think that the public here, at least, I don't know what it's like out there, but I mean, I get offered, even though I've retired, I still get offered watches every day. You know, sometimes if I want to stick some of them in my collection, I'll buy them, but I'm still getting offered watches every day. But the public are going to take a while, I think, to get it into their mind that these high prices have gone. You know, so when they're asking, you know, double list for their B&R, double list plus another 10%, they're not going to get those prices anymore. So there might be a bit of a stalemate where the public's concerned when it comes to selling. I don't know. They're gonna have to realise. You know what it's like. They always realise when they're buying, but they never realise when they're selling.
Exactly. Well, let's
So
throw something. Let's throw another hook into the mix. Let's throw into the fact that yesterday Rolex announced that they're closing production. I spoke
yeah,
to a friend of mine who was an authorized Rolex dealer here in Philadelphia, and he was ecstatic about it. He said, "Wait a minute. If Rolex is going to close all production and they're going to close the factory down, they're not going to produce. Let's say even for the next 2 months, prices will hold. And I
yeah,
guarantee you, if AP is smart, if Paddock is smart, they're going to do the same thing."
yeah,
The
sure.
minute the minute the public hears that, now the prices have dipped a little bit. They didn't crash. Nothing
Mm,
crashed. Let's get this straight.
yeah,
So, I
absolutely.
mean, in this box, I probably have a dozen or so APs and a few Paddocks that I just bought a week ago, and I'm going to continue buying them. So the prices have come down a tiny bit, but they didn't crash. There's still room for me to make money. But
Mm,
if AP, Paddock, and every other manufacturer follows Rolex tomorrow, I feel that that's going to lift up the spirits of the general crowd to say, well, wait a minute.
yeah,
Rolexes have come down a little bit. Rolex is not making any more of them. Maybe perhaps it's time for me to get out there and get that Batman, get the Sea Dweller that I always wanted at about 10,
yeah,
20% cheaper. Because at the end of the day, when all this shit is over, and it will be over, I tend to think most people think positive, I'm
yeah.
going to end up with a deal because the prices are going to go up anyway because there'll be a shortage of merchandise.
What sort of percentage of your business is the jewelry side of things?
Last year, I'll tell you exactly. It's about, again, you have to remember with watches being more expensive by nature, obviously the percentages are going to be skewed. In
Yeah,
terms of margins, jewelry is much better. In terms
yeah,
of
of course, yeah.
revenue, obviously watches are going to make up about 75% of our revenue.
Right,
So, and again, both wholesale and retail.
yeah,
And the biggest winner, honestly, today is watches $500 and under. It's your
yeah.
Amazon goods, it's your Overstock, it's all the other platforms that we sell on. And I
So you're
can't,
selling at that level, are you? You're
of course,
selling at that
of
level.
course.
Okay.
I mean, I've never shied or been embarrassed to deal with anything. I mean, we sell Swarovski jewelry, and guess what? There isn't a single item out there today in my stock, rich or meal or not, that can ever show me the type of margins we can make on stuff that's 100
Sure.
and
Yeah.
under.
Yeah,
Because the cheaper
absolutely.
stuff, people can afford it, and that's the
Mm.
simplest, lamest terms. You don't have a whole lot of guys out there that can afford $100,000 tourbillons, you know what I mean, or Richard Meals, or even Rolexes for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, some of my biggest profits when I was active, some of my biggest and my best profits were from my clients in the US, predominantly, who would buy historical items that you just can't find in America. The antique jewelry that I used to send out to the States, some of the objects I've had has been absolutely immense. I mean, mind blowing.
There's a dealer in London. His name is, he's got curly hair. He's a big antique jewelry dealer. What the hell is his name? Him and his sister. They actually look alike. I can't think of the name of the company. He came up to my booth in Hong Kong and he showed me a cross. It was an Edwardian era cross. We're talking 16, 1700s, right?
Yeah,
Uh, and it was a simple cross that had emeralds, which were not much to write home about. And he goes to me, Roman, he's like, how much would you pay for this? I looked at it and I'm like, oh, I don't know, 4 or 5 thousand. And he goes, he smirks, and he did it purposely. And he's like, how much you think I just paid? I was like, I don't know. He's like, I just paid 195,000 for this little cross, and I'm ecstatic about it. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to sell it for? He's like, it's irrelevant. I can ask whatever I want. This is extremely
yeah,
rare. And he
yeah,
went into the history of it and blah, 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 blah.
yeah.
And that taught me a big lesson is at the end of the day, in our business, in any business, knowledge is king. I would have walked
Mm.
right past that cross and wouldn't
Yeah,
have paid
sure.
attention to it. So, and with
Yeah,
jewelry, you're right. It's those rare unknowns that where you can make the bigger hits, you can make the bigger margins. And even today, there are certain jewelry pieces that we buy, branded older jewelry that, are sort of those blind items, boutique only edition stuff, and you're able to make irregular profit, as they call it. But at the end of the year, when I look at the numbers, it still all averages out to a certain
yeah,
percentage when it comes to
yeah.
watches and jewelry.
I have a big passion for sort of 18th, 19th century jewelry, fine objects, particularly French, English. I mean, some stunning objects.
Oh,
Certainly, you talk about cross. I have one in my safe right now that I bought about a year ago. 16th century Spanish, beautiful thing. You know, I paid £1,500 for it, which is what, about, I don't know, $1,800. But I can sell it for whatever someone wants to pay for it.
if you find the right collector. Listen,
Yeah,
I was in
exactly. Yeah,
Dubai. I was in Dubai and Oman, and you familiar with watches out there that carry the Oman logo because
yeah.
the Sultan that's recently passed away, he has a contract directly with Rolex and supplies them with these Rolexes that he gives as gifts. Ian, give me that thing right there. So I guess I can. This was a gift that my friend in Oman gave me, and this was just a big silver coin that was to celebrate, I think, 25th anniversary. And these types of objects, you want to talk about the English supplying the royalty in the Middle East. Asprey of London is a house name in the Middle East. This guy has shown me such things from Asprey that I haven't imagined in my wildest dreams. And some of these things are 50, 60, 70 years old. And a lot of these collectibles are, speaking of him, this is him offering me stuff right now. Look at that. I haven't seen in my wildest dreams. And I'm talking about from little trinkets like little knives and lighters and then brushes and shaving kits to, frames that are made out of 2 kilos of gold and encrusted with diamonds.
Yeah,
You think of the Prince Philip with, what's his name, Philip of Brunei, the amount of money he spent with Asprey of London is astronomical.
yeah, yeah.
And I picked these things up as well because they're blind items and there is a collector out there for them. 9 out of 10 people will deem these things useless and, worthless, where there are collectors out there that will deem a lot of things, worth collecting and worth a value. And
Yeah.
that's not it either. You have to have that type of clientele. But we have YouTube. If you got out tomorrow and you showed off that cross on YouTube to an audience that would then in turn share the stuff, you would find that right client for that particular
Yeah, yeah,
piece,
yeah.
much as like with any of this collectible stuff.
It's very tempting at times to sort of dabble again, but I have to resist that itch because ultimately, I think I would, by being retired as such, I think it gives me a certain type of credibility. I haven't got any axes to grind. I'm not selling anything. So if anyone accuses, I say, look, guys, I'm not selling nothing. You can't accuse me of this, So it makes my life quite easy, and I enjoy that.
I actually spoke about this on one of the videos we just recorded about, and I flat out told my viewers, as I always have, I said, guys, without even me wanting for this to become a sales channel, it already has. Because a lot of you guys are watching, because already bought a couple of pieces from me. I get an email every single day from dozens of you asking for advice or asking to purchase something. And I don't feel bad about it. And if anybody wants to give me heat over that, I don't really care. At the end of the
Yeah,
day,
I agree.
I want, if a client comes in and they buy something, whether they came in off of YouTube or elsewhere, and they're a satisfied client, at the end of the day, I'm still a business. I'm not retired. And, we're here to sell. We're here to make money. My YouTube production costs me money. It's no secret. I use a video production company. I have a full-time videographer, and it costs me 5 to 6 hours of my time a week. So, and for the first year and a half, when nothing was selling off of YouTube specifically, right? I wasn't complaining about it. So now if I can sell a couple of watches a week by doing this, it's a bonus as far as I see
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
I'm not going to feel bad about it.
So what are your personal 3 favorite brands, would you say? If you had to list your 3 favorite
It's very
brands,
easy. It's no secret. Everybody knows AP is my favorite brand. So, I would put AP at number 1. And the Royal Oak, the one that I have from 1972, the original Genta design, I have the first series. I have the A series. Is probably going to be that top watch from there. I would have to go with Rolex. And when I say Rolex, I would say vintage Rolex. I'm really good friends with Giorgia Mandani at the Mandani books, right? And if you've seen her books, I'm sure, and you start flipping through the pages and you see the variety that you have, that you get, just with subtle difference in bezels and crowns and things of that nature, and the collectability aspect of it, right? And again, not investment, collectability.
Collectability.
Mind blown with Rolex, and I respect the company. I've always said that I think Rolex is number 1 and number 2 is somewhere in the basement just because of the amount of watches they distribute and the demand that they keep and how they are able to keep such a tight loop around it. To me, it's amazing from a business perspective. But most of all, I would probably go with Rolex, the vintage end of things. Not that I don't like their modern stuff. In fact,
Yeah.
in Oman, I picked up a blue Sky Dweller with the Armani logo in the back that's going to go in the back of the safe, and it's going to stay with me for quite a long time. I'm going to wear the watch, but it's not something that I'm going to be selling.
Yeah.
And if I had to pick number three, it would have to be a toss-up between Breguet and Vacheron. And most likely I'll lead towards Breguet just because I think tourbillons is one of the most fascinating complications that were created, especially if you're talking about 200 some years ago when it was created.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the most fascinating complications in a wristwatch. And because Breguet was responsible for that, I think I'm going to go with Breguet at number three, with Vacheron probably being the closest number three as well. And but with Vacheron is due to it being the longest running company.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for me, AP, my favorite watch brand. When people used to ask me, Roman, I always say, well, look, AP is my favorite watch brand, but from a business point of view, it has to be Rolex because that's what pays the bills, you know.
Absolutely. Ultimately. I mean, you know, I've always said, people ask me, you know, about various brands, and when they talk about recognition, I tell them the same thing over and over. I tell them, if you're wearing a Rolex, you can be in the middle of the desert, dying of thirst, and you can take your Rolex off your wrist, pick up a Camel, 6 wives are going to go with it, and a glass of water at any given time. But if you're out there wearing a fancy Vacheron, or even a Breguet for that matter, most people won't recognize it. Rolex. Yeah, that's why I always put Rolex at number one and far number one. When people ask me about ratings or rankings or favorite or this, that, and the other, I always tell them, start with Rolex in its own realm and then rate everything else. You know, it's amazing what they've done.
They very rarely make any mistakes, do they?
They really don't. I can't think of any mistakes of Rolex, maybe with the exception of the original Yachtmaster. That's about it, you know.
That's another.
I still don't understand why that watch doesn't sell. I still don't get it, you know. I think it's a good looking watch, but it's just like, somebody asked me that the other day. They said, why doesn't it get any love? I said, well, if you were a dog watch coming out of the gate, regardless of what brand you are, you tend to stay that dog watch, you know, throughout history. You know, maybe 10 years from now, somebody will recognize them as collectibles and they'll go up in value. But for now, don't buy Yachtmaster ones.
How many times have you been to the UK?
I've been to the UK probably about 4 times at this point.
Okay, so you know it quite well. Where did you stay?
I think London. Again, I'm a big history buff. So when I go out somewhere, you asked me in one of my emails if you know, if I'm going to need any tours and things of that nature. I've seen it all, because when I get to a place that has so much history behind it, I mean, it doesn't get any more historical than the UK. I tend to go and look at everything and anything possible. And my wife is on the same page. So whenever we get to a town, we explore the crap out of it. We look at every single thing, again, from ancient history all the way up to modern history, modern art. We explore a town in every single aspect. You know, that's what we love to do.
Something that not a lot of people will know about my family history. I'm not quite sure how many generations I go back, but one of my ancestors emigrated to the United States in about 1750, stayed for 5 years and came home. So I don't know why he came home, but I could have ended up an American.
Oh, wow. Where I live, it's super rich with history. I mean, I live in the suburbs of Philadelphia, where it all started. Obviously, we're not going to talk about the war and none of that stuff, but I live 10 minutes away from Washington's Crossing. This is the famous painting of Washington crossing the river to go onto the Battle of Trenton, right? I don't have to go far, much like you in London, to find a historical place where something took place. I mean, literally, in my neighborhood, you drive a few blocks and we have these blue and yellow plaques that say, oh, in this house, George Washington took a shit in 1678. You know, this is how historical where I live is. It's crazy. You have modern houses, and then you have houses dating back 400 years to the colonial times. Because again, Philadelphia was one of the 5 major, you know, ports where everything came in and out of during colonial times and past that. So definitely lots of history here that's tied with your country as well, obviously.
Ask me a question, Roman. It's one that always interests me. And some of the answer is probably fairly obvious. It's because we share a common language. But what's your take on the special connection that the American and British people seem to have? And why do you think that is? Because whenever I visit the US, I'm always made to feel so welcome. I feel quite humble. And I know when you guys come here, we always treat you in a very high regard. What is the connection between us, do you think?
Well, I got to tell you because again, I'm not an American. I wasn't born here, right? I was born in the Soviet Union and later ran away from there. Thank God.
Yeah.
For my father's trick to come to the United
Yeah.
States for a better life. But if you go back generations, how many people that are here today are descendants of the Brits? How many percentage-wise? Probably more than 50%. Because at the end of the day, who were these freedom fighters in America that decided to revolt against the king and blah, 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 blah? They were the same British people that came over here in the 1600s.
Yeah.
So it's how many people in America can trace their roots very easily back to old country, which is England. And it was the British coming over here that started the United States of America. Yes, granted, we're a country of immigrants and there are plenty of other Americans,
of course,
from other countries, but now we're going back, to a much later time. But the originality is, I guarantee you got a gazillion cousins in America you don't even know about. You know what I mean? And that's what it's all about. Why do a lot of people have British names? There's a reason for that, because it were the Brits that started this whole thing here. And that's why, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, there is that connection, because for the most part, it's the same people. That's how I feel about it.
How do you see Roman Sharf in another 20 years? Where would you like to be?
I would like to get it to a point where right now, if you look at retail versus wholesale, it's a catch-22. So about 9 years ago, when I went from strictly retail to starting to do wholesale, that's what allowed my business to propel into the stratosphere in terms of numbers, because stuff moving faster, more profits, more margins, bigger revenues, right? It propelled me here, but somewhere along the way, we lost sight of the retail side of things, right? So right now, I'm literally in the middle of probably a 2 to 3 year plan to slowly do this, to scale down on the wholesale end of things, because our business has become polluted. Everybody and their mother is a watch dealer now, right? And really concentrate back on what started this whole thing, and that is retail. And unfortunately, we're at a time where your website now competes with Chrono 24s, with Amazons, with Overstocks, First Dibs, you name it. There's so many platforms out there that you're competing against. So the idea is, I'm a strong believer of working with your competition rather than against them. So when I take this watch and I throw it online, it goes to 14 different places. And I want to first scale up the retail end of things, and then scale down the wholesale side, and then scale down the third-party platforms, which are your Chrono 24s. And the only way to do that is with exclusivity. So within the means that we can afford, we're going to start scaling down wholesale and then the other platforms, and trying to push our product via our own website, via our name, because we have a name. We've been online for 15 plus years, or 17 years now. So we have that name. Now we got to put forth that product. But it's a catch-22, because I can take this box, wholesale it to somebody tomorrow, make almost the same profit as retail, because lately the line between wholesale and retail has virtually disappeared. But I don't gain much from this in terms of a new client, in terms of somebody that will come back and buy again. So that's really the ultimate goal over the next 2 to 3 years, because I want to become a company that I can sell. And my goal has always been to.
So that's the exit plan.
That's always been my exit strategy. And unfortunately, in a wholesale, and I know what the exit strategy is, because I've bought out a lot of those guys that have retired. You accumulate inventory. At the end of the day, you accumulate a whole lot of inventory. You sell it off at pennies on a dollar. You take that big chunk of money and you retire. That's not what I'm looking to do. I want the name luxurybazaar.com to sort of live on, right? It's sort of been my baby since the very get-go. I should say my wife's.
I was going to say Mrs. Sharf.
So Mrs. Sharf, but I want that name to sort of live on. And I also realize it's not very easy in the internet space to be bought out just out of the blue. You have the numbers, the clients, all that stuff you can do. And I realized that I need to identify my potential buyer today. And that's why I'm working with a lot of third-party platforms right now, which will eventually recognize that I'm somebody that needs to be bought out and be under their name. So find the bigger guy, work with them, get your number up to a point where you see, I want to exit. If my exit strategy is to exit at $25, get your company to that, and identify the buyer to, spend that $25 with you. And then, what I want to do? This. Whatever buyout happens, I'm going to stay on YouTube, and the Roman Sharf channel is not going to be for sale. That's going to.
I was just going to say to you, Roman, listen, honestly, I can't see a man like you retiring ever. I think it's just not. People like us, we can't do it, can we?
Yeah,
I'll be busy.
my son has become somewhat of an entrepreneur over the last couple of years. At the age of 14, he decided to start selling sneakers online. He's 16 now, and last year he managed to do 365,000 in revenue. All right, at the
Wow.
age of 16. And the most exciting news happened yesterday, and I guess we can use this as an announcement. I was going to give him obviously a watch for his graduation. He's about a year and a half away from his graduation, and then I was going to get him a watch. He came to me. He's like, Dad, I'm kind of understand that when I graduate, most likely I'll receive some kind of a watch from you, but I'm in a position where I want to buy my own watch. So what do you want to get? Surprise, Rolex, right? So yesterday he bought himself a Rolex Submariner at the age of 16. I didn't have a Rolex Submariner at the age of 16. Okay, I bought my first Rolex I think at the age of 21 when I had got my first job, and it was a Datejust from the 70s that I paid $1,000 at a pawn shop for. He bought himself a brand new Rolex Submariner. Granted, I sent him to my friend Rolex dealer. They gave him the watch at cost, right? Which even though they're selling over list right now, is a favor to me, and it was sold to him at cost. So he ended up spending $5,700 on it. But the fact that my 60-year-old son went out there and bought himself his first Rolex, it just shows me the future. So perhaps, once he's done with school and once he's done with colleges, he's looking at a lot of business schools right now, and he decides to open up his own business. Maybe that's where my concentration is going to shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just have to make sure. I just have to make sure to understand the boundaries that if he decides to open up a business, to keep myself back enough, not to overwhelm him for one, and let him do his thing. Because as fathers, we're always going to say, no, you're doing this wrong, and you're doing that wrong.
Sure.
It's tough. It's tough. But
it's promising. It's a promising start, that's for sure. I wanted to ask you about, you mentioned Chrono24 earlier, and you mentioned eBay as well. What do you make of the platforms available to dealers and to the public? What's your take on the situation? Do you think there's room for any other platforms as we move ahead?
Somebody's always going to try to get out there and open up a platform. When I was in the Middle East, I visited a few countries, and a buddy of mine said, I want to open up a platform in my country because it doesn't exist. To which I told him, don't. It's very difficult to compete with Chrono24 because they're a super successful platform. The amount of money that they dump into marketing to come up in every single Google search, it would not pay for any company, including myself, to compete with them for those clicks. So opening up another platform should be out of the question for anybody. But Chrono24 in general is, number one, it's a bit misleading to the public in terms of pricing, because a lot of the stuff that's on there people don't actually have. Right?
Exactly.
But it's very misleading in terms of pricing because the prices are inflated on Chrono24 for the simple reason that I can always deliver a Royal Oak chronograph. I can always deliver a Rolex Sea Dweller, and I don't have to have it in stock. I just have to put up a picture. But I'm going to increase the price just slightly in case I have to scramble and fill this order, right? Yeah. So that's one thing. Number two, the price is also inflated due to fees, right? They charge heavy-duty fees to sell on there. And depending on countries with VATs and things of that nature, that also inflates the pricing a little bit. But for the most part, I feel a lot of the platforms, I think, shake consumer confidence because they get out there and say, wait a minute, there's a Pepsi shortage for Rolex? There's 1 million of them on Chrono24. Well, 50% of it is the same exact watch or pictures or something like that. So that's a bit of an issue. But at the same token, there's still a decent guide if you know how to read it. And I actually did a video on that. I told people how to log on Chrono24 and actually figure out the value of a particular watch by taking fees into consideration, credit card fees, PayPal fees, Chrono24 fees, delivery charges, and things of that nature. Because when people always bitch and moan about, you so lowballed me on this watch, it's on Chrono24 for 20 grand. I actually literally took a watch and I explained it to them. Yeah. But fighting with Chrono24 is not a feat anybody should take on. Because you're not going to win that battle. They have more money, and that's just the bottom line. What I love about Chrono24 is how safe they made it on there for the end consumer. And in that respect, the consumer confidence is way high that they're not going to get screwed and get a brick in a box. eBay is dying. eBay is what started Luxury Bazaar, almost 18 years ago now, and that's a dying platform. And the reason for that, because eBay did not reinvent themselves. And I actually had a conversation with eBay in regards to that, some higher-end executives, and I offered them a meeting with their CEO because I told them, I said, if you want to win this battle, this is what you need to do. eBay has the power to destroy any other platform out there, including Chrono24, believe it or not. They're just not taking advantages of the technology and the tools that's available to them. They're sort of going with the flow because they sell so many other different things. But in reality, if you had the right, if I was the guy hired by eBay tomorrow to lift up their watch and jewelry business tomorrow, I guarantee you with the power that they have, I would have the power to destroy any platform out there, including myself. But unfortunately, I don't feel like they have the right people at the helm that have the vision or the experience to do so.
Yeah, I spent 15 years on eBay. Yeah. eBay was an immensely successful platform for me.
3 years, that's all I did is eBay.
Exactly. But I always felt that their decisions, particularly where the watch and jewellery business was concerned, were bizarre. For example, when they upped their fees to, I can't even remember what it was now, but it was a ridiculous amount. I mean, where did that crazy decision come from?
I don't know. And right now they just got a new CEO, and I'm hoping that I might actually get a meeting with him. And because they opened up a new department. They were here in my office, and that was the authentication. They basically copied Watch Facts on Amazon, where they're certifying pre-owned watches now on eBay. And I'm like, guys, you're just being dumb. I'm like, you have a database of clients that's bigger than all the platforms put together out there, including your Rolex, including Gilt, including StockX, including, I said, you woke up and realized that everybody out there is taking a huge chunk of this big pie called, jewelry and watch business, and you're saying, oh, wait a minute, we could probably do this too. I said, authentication program is not something that's going to do it. You already have consumer confidence because you have return policies and PayPal and things of that nature. Yeah. I said, what you need to concentrate on is utilizing the database that you have and bringing those clients back onto the eBay platforms, not to buy from Chrono24, but to buy from eBay. You need to give perks to the sellers because right now, StockX charges me a whopping 4% to sell watches on there. All plus the credit card fees. I said, I sell a watch on your platform, I'm still looking to pay 12 to 15%. I said, that's a big difference, especially considering that we work on 5 to 10% margins of some of these things. I'm like, doesn't leave a whole lot of room. So the prices get inflated. So and there's a lot of ideas that I have to put forth for them, and they can revive themselves. The problem is you have 10,000 people working at eBay. And I know what corporate politics is all about. I've worked in a corporate world. And to get past that thick wall of politics, to cut through all the bullshit and have one guy come out there and say, this is what needs to be done, it's going to be a tough road for them, yeah.
Very hard. Do you ever see a platform appearing on YouTube? Do you think it's possible?
I think that, if anything, Google would probably tie some of that stuff back to Google Shopping somehow. And, but right now, Google is making so much revenue off of YouTube from simple advertising to retarget marketing that pops up everywhere. I don't think they would want to risk polluting the space with shopping to turn people off of YouTube. YouTube is still the second most searced platform on the internet after Google, right? So if I'm Google, and again, this is my personal opinion, if I'm Google, if it's not broke, don't with it. Just leave it alone. You start popping in products and things of that nature. Instagram is already doing it. When people are posting things, you click on the picture and there's all these links to the products and things like that. The ads are already pissing people off tremendously. You go on Instagram and every fifth post is an ad. If YouTube starts doing the same thing, you're going to see people moving things to places like Patreon, I think is the other platform for video. You have Vimeo that's still fairly strong in terms of that. So I don't think they would risk that, But you never know, those guys. We're not the ones making those decisions. I wouldn't.
I agree with you what you said about eBay. I always felt with eBay that they treated watch sellers like T-shirt sellers, and we were in a completely different business.
Yeah.
And the times
they also gave us our start. When I sent an email to one of the executives at eBay after our meeting, and I spelled out exactly what they needed. It was an email that was probably 3 pages long, and I literally spelled it out for them. I said, guys, this is what you need to do, and it's coming from a guy that has experience. I've been with you since day one. You're the ones that put me into this business. I'm forever thankful and grateful. But where eBay used to be my number one platform, then we became my number 2 platform. Right now, you're on the bottom of the totem pole. I mean, I got Rolex selling more stuff than you guys do. And I look at my numbers weekly and monthly, and eBay's just not up there. It's great for cheap little things. It sells, but I don't remember the last time I sold a really expensive watch off of eBay. People just pick up the phone, call the office, and buy it. People used to look to eBay to find those deals, to find the items they felt safe buying on eBay. And right now, you got at least 5 other platforms that are blowing them out of the water in our realm of jewelry and watches.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask you about the American market, which is obviously, going to be slightly different from that in the UK and perhaps Europe. What's the situation with customization out there in the US right now? Because years ago it was extremely popular here. If I go back to the early...
It's still very popular. So, customization. Hold on. Oh, here we go.
Do you want 10 boxes of toilet rolls for that box of watches there?
So customization is, I don't want to say a huge part of our business, but it's still a part of our business, but we do it strictly wholesale. So this is something I brought back from the Middle East, right? Aftermarket GMT. I've done well with these pieces because they do move. And I think what changed in the customization world as far as America is concerned, where it used to be a hip hop watch, a rapper's watch, etc., whatever you want to dub it, right? It's no longer that. You got punk rockers out there buying customized diamond Rolexes. It's become sort of a good trend, and from a couple of perspectives. Number one, money savings. A GMT original like that, when you're paying close to $100,000, and now you can pick up the same watch at a third of a price or even a quarter of a price sometimes, it becomes a savings thing. Number two, it becomes a personalized thing. If tomorrow somebody tells me, you know what, well, make me a GMT with an emerald dial and a yellow sapphire bezel, I can do that. And people are now personalizing their watches in the way they see fit. Because let's face it, how many times have you seen Rolex or any other brand come out with something and say, well, that's ugly, I wish they did this. Well, now you have the ability to do so. And it's not necessarily just with diamonds. It's PVDs, different color dials. It's different markers and things of that nature. It allows people to customize and personalize their own watch. Look at what Virgil Abloh did with his, what is it? It was a perpetual ceramic white, right? He made it all white with a white dial. Well, when I first got that watch in my hands and they made it with a blue dial, I said, well, why didn't you make it with a white dial? It would just be an awesome look, much better looking watch with a white dial. And this is where it kind of stems from. But the market on the stuff is still good here. I don't retail the stuff unless I have a specific retail customer that calls me and say, hey, I want an aftermarket this, that, and the other. I'll do it. For the most part, I only keep it strictly to wholesale for one reason only. I always felt that mixing original with aftermarket in the same platform confuses the consumer and shakes their confidence a little bit. What's to say that I won't sell somebody a Rolex with a fake aftermarket bezel and they won't even know about it. So that's why I try to keep that to strictly wholesale. But it's a strong business. If you can find the right watches and you can find the right people to do it at the right type of cost, it's very expensive and cost prohibitive to do this in-house, in America, I mean, because labor is extremely expensive. And so if this is done out in Hong Kong or Middle East or places where labor is not as expensive, oh, excuse me, it pays. Oh, Corona. Wait a minute, where's the Lysol? It pays. And I only do it with new watches. I don't take pre-owned watches and customize them. I take a brand new watch, I pay more, and I customize a brand new watch because when a client gets that watch and it's brand spanking new with card, box, and everything else, and it's recently dated, it's just a better move, I felt like, in the long run, and it makes me sell more pieces.
So where's your set in Dubai?
Yeah, I do. There's Dubai, there's Hong Kong, Thailand is a good place to do this in, and I don't make them myself. I buy watches that are already ready. I found a couple of suppliers that are reliable, that charge me a decent amount of money. I'm able to make a decent margin on a wholesale end, and I don't bother. Listen, I can open up a small office in Dubai. I have an office in Hong Kong. I can put 3 setters in there. But I would rather give this guy a 5-point margin than to get out there, set all this up, go look for these brand new watches, change the stuff out, deal with it. Why?
Because it's the reassemble, the disassemble, and the setting is key.
Exactly.
It's got to be right.
I'd rather make the guy that does this and the guy that does this, he has a setup where he got 12 guys sitting behind benches doing this stuff all day, every day. Why am I going to replicate all that? What I can do is give him his margin. He's happy. I'm still making money. So why bother?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Paul, it was a pleasure chatting with you. We should do this more often. I think we should literally put this on a schedule because right now with the evolving watch market and everything that's going on out there, we should get on camera together for at least once a month just to sort of give an update, as you said, from both sides of the ponds. It was a pleasure talking to you, my friend. And
thank you.
Let's talk again, and hopefully we can get to London and do this live.
Absolutely. Let's look forward to some more positive times ahead. And I just want to say, personally, from our side of the pond here, Roman, thank you for your input into the YouTube community. It is genuinely appreciated. We really do enjoy watching you, and I hope to see you in London soon.
Well, you do know that I can say the same exact thing about you, right? Because I do watch your videos just the same, and I know a lot of my viewers watch yours. So I'm sure a lot of guys in America appreciate you just the same.
Take care, everyone.